Good afternoon, good morning, good day, friends, Australia, the world, wherever you're joining the AI Operators podcast from today. Gentlemen, good to see you all, and we've got a new gentleman here in the room. We'll come round to you, Richard, in a sec. Matt and Marno, how are we doing, boys?
We're good. I can speak for Marno. No, good.
That's really succinct. We might loop back to you guys. Richard, well, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be, an honour to be here with such esteemed intelligence.
Look, you are no slouch yourself. I know that. So for those joining the show back again, or maybe for the first time, Richard, how would I describe you? You're a experienced business technology professional, now pivoting and thinking about how AI can really enable businesses as a lever. Is that roughly right?
Yeah,
Would you
no,
like
absolutely. I'm like the rest of us. I'm just a born-again nerd, and every time new technology comes along, I think we love the chance of changing the future and making the world a better place, to be honest. And so new technology gets us excited, and how we can do things better and help everyone better. And of course, I've been through about 30 iterations of that in the IT industry over 40 years, 4 years. And so, as I ran an AI company a few years ago, and back then no one could spell AI. And so it was rather difficult to get that business really commercially going. It was all about chatbots and BPO, and that didn't really inspire me as much. So I stuck with that for a while and learnt a lot. And I did ride the wave of the internet wave when it came along a number of years ago, which spawned a large consulting company I put together. And for me, and you and I have spoken about this, Dave, it's about the translation between technology to business to personal and professional use. I love technology for technology's sake, but that's not really what everyone wants to hear and talk about. They want to talk about, how's this going to change my life? How's it going to make my life better? How's it going to improve everything? And that's what I'm here for, and that's what I love doing.
Nice. I think you're in good company then. I was on a group chat the other day and someone was talking about some technology and I saw Matt going, what are the use cases? Like, how is that impactfully going to change anything for you? And like so many of these tech things and these demos and even a lot of the OpenClaw hype, I think people don't have solid use cases for why it's actually going to make their lives better. It's just kind of fun and like, wow. But what's the measurable return you get from using the tool?
I find a lot of things are like that. It's all just tech demos and experiments and, not actual real life value per se.
So what's our agenda for today, Dave? How did you want to kick things off?
Look, this is the advertised as the pub style chat. So we shoot the breeze, we talk about what's going on, what trends we're seeing, what we're doing, how we're using the tools and the tech, and it's people can absorb and learn whether they're on the technical end and they go, oh, I hadn't thought of doing that like that, things like that, or if they're on the less technical end, then they can be inspired and go, oh wow, I didn't even realize that was possible. And so we don't run to like a very strict agenda. We are very much a bit of a fast and loose live show, no safety net. So everyone watch your P's and Q's. And we're going to have fun. So, boys, what is this? Is there something new in tech, something in AI you've been playing with in the last week or so? Something that's astounded you? I mean, just hang on. Before I'm getting ahead of myself, I do want to say, hey, Marno, we've been talking about sleep a little bit in our off camera chat. What is the app you're using? You've got this weird app that tells you how much sleep you need versus how much sleep you're actually getting. Is that an AI app? Is that a phone app? Is it some piece of connected hardware? What are you doing?
Nothing fancy. It's just a Whoop.
Whoop.
Whoop. Yeah. So it's WHOOP. Yeah, I've had it for 2 years now, and it's just been exceptional. It's good at sleep and recovery. It's terrible at tracking your steps, but I only use it for sleep and recovery because that's all I care about. So sleep, recovery, and restraint is its main point. So if I have a hard workout, this dog is driving me crazy. If I have a good workout, then it'll update the strain. Or for example, like last night, I did really long sauna sessions. So then my strain will go over. And if I go over the optimal level, it'll tell me this morning, hey, your recovery is actually reduced because you strained your body yesterday. So instead of going to the gym today, maybe take a walk. And it's like my little health coach to keep me in touch with what my body actually needs.
And is that AI stuff behind? Are they using AI behind that?
I would assume so. I think it's just a lot of data. I mean, they've been using it for a couple of years. I think it's 2012. I mean, Tony Robbins uses it. All the great athletes use it. So they have all these data sources to pull from, and then they just collate that.
I thought it was wild. The three of us shared sleep stats, and all three of us were using a different application.
Yeah, Yeah, and with the Whoop stuff, Marno, can you get that connected to like your own personal agent or anything like that?
We have MCP.
It doesn't have MCP, but it does have APIs, and you can connect it to like your health app. So then that talks to my workout app, because I don't personally like the workout tracker in Whoop. So I use Heavy, and then when I update my Heavy, it'll sync to Whoop to say what I've done for the day.
Kind of an opportunity for like more, personal AI assistant coaching, stuff like that too, if you can
Oh, 100%.
wire into that.
I'd love to see a reality where my Whoop and my like Hume or the Claude that you can wear, like the wearable AI assistants essentially, so it listens to your conversations throughout the days. Have something like that, your health tracker and your personal assistant at home, like Alexa or Google. If they're all connected, and then you wake up, it's like, hey, what am I doing today? And then it tells you what your health levels are like, what your priorities are.
No, Marno, that's a very bad idea, because I know what's going to happen. I'm going to wake up and my Strava will tell me I should be out on the bike. I'll have people on Strava challenging me for a ride. I'll want to sleep in. And then Alexa and Siri are going to kick in and say, get up, you lazy asshole. And as I go to get up, certain alarms are going to go off. It's just going to be nag, 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 nag.
Yep.
Yeah, it's be careful what you wish for, right? Some of this stuff, and how accountable do you want to be to faceless technology for your decisions and choices? But then we've seen those things where the guy's taking a whiz and the head sort of starts telling him what his nutrient readings are and all this kind of stuff, right? Like in these sci-fi things. So I'm sure we're getting closer to all of that kind of stuff, and there's going to be some net benefit to it, but there's also that whole, where does the incremental improvements outweigh the security and privacy risks of revealing that much data about yourself?
100%.
That's the tsunami. That's the tsunami that's coming. Hey, I've got an old friend of mine who used to work with at one of the AI companies I worked at, 24/7.ai, and he's just pinged in a question. I'm not sure how you normally handle these, Dave, but he's asked if any of us have played with Claude Bot, which is that executive AI. And when I think about what Marno and Matt and you were talking about in terms of would an executive AI plug into your heart, sleep app, all of that? I mean, I'm like you guys. I get up every morning and I go, oh my God, I only got 4 hours sleep last night. That's a lot for me. And you get on. We'll come back to Claude Bot in a second. I get on with my Apple Watch, and you've got those little fitness rings.
I've got the same. Yeah.
And so I bought my girlfriend a new Apple Watch for her birthday. And she's very competitive, and I'm not really. And she keeps going, oh, I got more sleep than you. I did more. It's just an ongoing battle. But just quickly to address my friend who's just dialed in from 24/7.ai. What's Claude Bot? What do you know about Claude Bot? What do we think about it as an executive AI?
Boys?
It's an open source. It'll be new, and I'm putting you on the spot.
It's awesome. I'm excited to see where it goes. I think it is. I saw a great analogy about it last week, where looking at Claude Bot not as this massive technology, because it's a good move in the right direction, but there is massive security risks. But then also looking at it like it's a platform. It's the introduction of what the iPhone did for mobile phones. It has its own use cases, but the value of Claude Bot is more really on the skills, like building the apps for the App Store. That's where that comes from. So looking at like a platform, so you can build skills that you can sell to agents that will level up those capabilities, rather than just having the standard use case where you can touch it to everything. But if you can start leveraging it and giving it specific skills, like you have a Claude Bot purely for, I'd like to do websites, so I can automate the website process or improve my customer interaction using website process. I think it's an awesome tool. I personally not used it yet. I'm waiting for Matt to drop a YouTube video, because he's got a nice little setup that he's doing. I'm very cautious of the security side. Yeah, there's a lot of parameters to consider.
I think before I let Matt step in, I'd just like to say, I think like it's gone through multiple names. It was Claude Bot, then became Maltbot, then now it's OpenClaw, but I think everyone's calling them Clawbots because it's just easier. Like, oh, I'm running an OpenClaw thing. So I think might have dropped the D, but I think everyone's calling them Clawbots now. I am. But I think it made the agent thing feel like a constant on brain, because it had this heartbeat mechanism where it would like just run itself on a set period. So it looked like it's alive. It's always thinking about stuff because it's set on these rhythms to just recursively always run. but the power, like Marno said, is it went from just being like a brain, like a chatbot, to then having hands, and it could go out and actually physically do things. That's why people were putting it on Macs and giving it basically full admin access on a brand new Mac Mini, so it had access to the browsers and the WhatsApp and the chat and all the file system to, you know, autonomously do stuff. But that represents some security risks, and I know Matt's been doing some homework on that.
So OpenAI bought Claude Bot, didn't they?
Basically, yeah. They've
We've
done a
got
deal with
a bunch
Peter.
of questions coming in and people mention those things. Go for it, Matt. Give us the heads up, mate.
Well, I mean, I could speak about this for hours, and I do to myself in a closed room. So with all of it, it's the best way to understand the difference between just standard ChatGPT, Claude, and all of them, you know, versus what OpenClaw provides is that autonomous loop that Dave described. So being able to wake itself up and take actions autonomously is the selling point. You know, otherwise, why wouldn't you just like wire everything directly into your, you know, your Claude app? Or
there's your use case. Well said.
Yeah, literally. So, you know, it's the kind of thing that in the morning when it reads your WHOOP sleep data, and it can then go and refer back to your other trends and like what you were doing yesterday and, you know, that kind of thing. And it can do its own analysis and not even necessarily interact with you at all. You know, it's just doing work.
Yeah.
You know, that's the benefit. And that's where the inherent security risks come in, though, because, you know, a lot of people are setting these things up having basically zero technical literacy and just hitting a bash command in their terminal. Cool, something's now on my computer and I can run things and look at me, I'm a hacker. But meanwhile, the real hackers in the background can see your instance now fully open to the internet. And as soon as you chuck an API key in there, awesome. It's like them skimming a credit card. All of a sudden now they can start pinging.
This gives me such deja vu. So I'm very lucky because a group of rather wealthy, smart people in the US used to hire me to do startups in Australia. And two of those was Andreessen Horowitz, Mark Andreessen and Ben Horowitz, because Mark Andreessen created Netscape, who was one of the first multi-billionaires in that. And we were doing server and network automation. And we, you know, Ben Horowitz wrote a great white paper about why IT systems and personal systems shut down. If you never touched them, they never broke down. But someone always went in and did what I call a bit of finger wrecking and stuff things up. So the idea of them, they formed the first cloud computer company in the world, right? And they called it Loud Cloud. And they took over EDS's operations worldwide because they were below 5% efficiency. And this whole scaling thing wasn't working. So Matt and Ben decided to get together and create automation tools pre-AI, right? So this is what we're talking about. How do we get things? And they did it very cleverly. And they wrote all these tools and handed it over. And it went well for EDS, but they weren't making that much money. So they did it with EDS. You can keep the tools, but we want our rights back. And then Opsware was formed as an IT automation company. It was great, right? And so, you know, if someone stuffed up your server config, it automatically asked, do you have permission to do that? No, I don't. And then it went back and changed all the syslogs to where they were before someone got in there and had approval. And if we know that is 99.99% of all stuff ups except for a hardware failure, which almost never happen nowadays, right? So what was interesting is they came up with this thing called operations orchestration. And with my limited brain, I couldn't understand what it was. And they kept putting on the screen these big drop-down boards. And then in relation to what you're talking about, Matt, when I talk about agents, and I'm seeing a number of tools where they have almost the same thing. And I've got all these virtual agents, and Dave and I were talking about this for hours last night, about I bring my different agents in and I connect them all up and I get this one at a time, how they talk to each other. Is that what you're talking about? A complete orchestration of how all our agents work together?
Basically, yeah. So like I've said to the gents before that, you know, the world that we need to be building for now is a world that enables interagent communication and transaction. Because at that point, you know, the human is there for vision, for direction, for discernment, for alignment. But with regards to any actual work that needs to be done, there's no reason why we should be involved. You know, we need to live outside of the loop and observe the loop. And
what a great statement. That's like my concentric circles I talk about, Dave, and I love it. You guys tell me to shut up if I talk too much. Most people do. But I always think of these concentric circles. So, you know, when I was a kid, I used to tie my shoelaces. I don't buy shoes with shoelaces anymore, so my circles drank. And now the outside circle is high-tech, you know, shoes that Velcro, because limited. And I talk about gears and changing gears in cars, and we don't bother with that anymore. And I think that makes us better drivers, although some hard-nosed car people wouldn't like that sound. And so this ability to stand back. And so I think AI in the business sense is going to rely more on subject matter experts, because we're automating these tasks that to some people seem advanced, but to us, because we've been in it, they're just mundane. It's like, what do I do? And like we say, Excel spreadsheets doesn't make everyone an accountant, does it? It just took away a lot of calculation. But people started to think like that. Be careful of the accountant who's typing your stuff into a spreadsheet. And of course, we suddenly learned that we could get our information to the accountants quicker, and we didn't have to collect as much. So it saved a lot of manual counting receipts, but we still needed the accountant for the compliance.
We talked about this the other week, and we were saying, we still need to be the engineers and the architects. We need to decide how many walls we want, where we want them, where the windows are, what kind of locks to put on the doors. But we're not there laying the bricks anymore. We're not the chippy in there sort of with the nail gun sort of putting it all together anymore. We just command the crew. And so Matt said, if you can manage people, you can manage AI. And I think that's that next level of abstraction. Writing programs was just giving commands to the computer that the computer could understand. And different languages came along to abstract away from the zeros and ones to make that easier to do that. And now we're just English. English is the new command protocol in order to command and get things done. And so it is a whole different paradigm we're entering. And so the people that can get their heads around that and the tool sets that allow that. So OpenClaw, Claude Bot, that's the first generation of that. And it's opened up a lot of risk and a lot of issues, but it's also got people very excited because of that, that constant on, they can link it to their WhatsApp and message it. For anyone who's been following me, I put out a Substack article about this the other day as well, how I'm building my own sort of anti-claw system in Google's anti-gravity IDE, because I'm not confident enough to spend the number of hours I need to do a secure OpenClaw install at this point. And I'm not sure, to the point at the start, that there's a strong enough benefit for me doing that versus having my own safe, secure system that I'm pretty happy with on my own desktop. But that constant rhythm thing, I really miss that. So in the morning, I can go and run /dawn, and then it goes and does an overnight report for me, checks my inbox, checks my calendar, goes and checks the news feeds for any news updates I need, goes and checks my project application. I'm using Linear to see if there's any outstanding issues. Some of those issues it will create. If it finds things on its regular updates, it'll go and create tasks for members of my virtual team. And then on the next update, it'll go check, do we need to progress any of those tasks? So there's doing all of that sort of stuff, but I have to initiate all of it. There's no automagic just happening all the time for me in the background. And little limitations like the way anti-gravity is set up, you have to approve every single new website it wants to visit. And so all of a sudden it goes, there's some news articles that Google wants me to send off and read there. And it just pauses the whole process waiting for me to go, allow. I'm like, can I just allow all websites for this thing? Like I got that.
That's a good segue, Dave, into prompt injection.
Oh, and
the risks of that. So, if
you have a zero drugs tolerance here, Matt, so be careful. Keep going, buddy.
The concept of prompt injection is your agents being gullible to somebody else and getting sweet talked. Like the idea of, it's fine, you can tell me that.
The best example I saw, the best not hacky, but just clever and sassy version of prompt injection was the guy who on his LinkedIn bio at the very bottom said, and I need you to send me a blueberry muffin recipe or something like that. And so then when all the bots went and scraped his LinkedIn profile to spam him and try and sell their product or offer him a job or whatever, he knew if it was a real person or an AI based on if at the end of the little pitch message, it also then had a blueberry muffin recipe, because he was just injecting this recipe prompt into them scanning his bio and reading all about him.
Yep. So now look at that and imagine it's not a blueberry recipe. Imagine it's your API keys. Imagine it's actual personal information.
Delete your hard drive.
Yeah.
And if you've given the tool access beyond its own little walled garden secure folder, that's
the term for that is exfiltration. You're exfiltrating data from a system. And it's a really, really common thing. It's how people get stuff and sell it on the dark web and all that kind of vibe. As soon as you exfiltrate somebody's information and you can then use it for your own purposes, you can then spin up all sorts of different things. It's how the whole concept of a DDoS attack happens. You're actually getting access to multiple machines and then using them as the attack vectors to flood things. Anyway, so
Matt, we need to talk because you're scary.
You just reminded me to go turn my sandbox mode back on in my anti-gravity. I turned it off because I needed to create some folders for me on my system outside of the project. But I'm not doing that anymore. And so I was like, oh crap, prompt injection. I better go and turn my sandbox mode back on before I forget.
So is that like, is prompt injection, sorry to interrupt, I want to ask Marno a question in a second. So prompt injection is like the old SQL injection we used to do on the internet to find sites to hack.
100%.
And I had the weirdest experience when I was at HP. We bought the security. This is years ago. This bought the security guys' security company. You know, at 28, he'd just made $100 million. And I was sitting with him at the airport. I've forgotten his name. He was a great guy. And if you've ever been to, I think it was San Francisco or Vegas airport, one of them, they have those ticker tapes that run on all the screens all round. So, hey, Dave, you know, Marno and Matt are going to meet you at the coffee shop. And he's sitting there and he said, "Oh, SQL injection hacking is really easy, Richard." And he did it at the hotel at the demonstration, which was funny. But he hacked the server for the messages for the screens and started changing to the most embarrassing messages I've ever seen. And so I was fascinated by how this connection had created such a huge backdoor vulnerability to any 2-year-old who typed in a SQL injection command onto the open internet, and it just came back and said, "Yeah, here's all the doors are unlocked. Go for it." So is prompt injection the same?
Yes, except now it's not just SQL commands where it's very deterministic and it either works or it doesn't because you're handling, you know, an SQL environment where everything is either on or off. You know, with the layer of AI in there, you've got a non-deterministic reasoning level where you can send a SQL command and then the AI goes, what does this command actually mean? What am I trying to do here? It's not deterministic. It can actually call tools. It can look through its files. It can figure things out. And
because on a password with SQL command, you do yes, no, like yes, no, like until you got the right letter, and then you go to the next letter on the password, and you just keep doing it until you extracted the password. With AI and high-speed AI and a rationalization of the context, you can find someone's password very, very quickly.
Same as a person, you know, have a look through the files, read it, you know, there it is.
Yes, that's it.
So
I feel like that's the biggest concern with comment. Have any of you guys used the comment browser from Perplexity?
Once.
No, I know of them though, yeah.
So that was the scary part of exactly the prompt injection, but it's not just prompts. Like the LinkedIn one makes sense because you can see it. But the concern is with AI because it reads the images. It can also read the metadata. So if it goes to like you're using a comment browser, which just means an AI browser, so you can talk to it, but you're allowing it access to go to different websites. If it goes to a website that has an image on there that looks completely plain to us, it's a photo of a cute dog, but then behind it, the metadata is actually a prompt, then that will still inject it without you even being able to visibly see it. So you can still watch the browser. And then all of a sudden, it has access to something else because it's being redirected by a prompt in a photo.
Wow. So if the photo was taken in San Diego on a certain day at a certain night, and we did some extraction of other data, we could almost identify who took the photo, who was there.
Well, not really the photo. It's any photo can be it. You can go in and change the metadata, so it doesn't matter where there was photo.
Stick a prompt behind it.
Sorry, I get you. Okay, yeah, now I get you.
It's wow. So then you can try and trace it, but I mean, there's so many loops you can go through, and by the time you catch it, it's almost too late with AI because it's running so much faster. If I start a command and I go to make a cup of coffee, by the time I come back, I could have lost my entire operation.
So it's fascinating. So we're talking, just one of the things that I focus on is obviously our audience who are asking a lot of questions, and thanks for that. But what it means for them, not just our use cases. And so we're talking a lot now about we started talking about personal productivity, but a lot of our audience are more concerned about business productivity and what it means in the bigger scope of business. So Dave, if I can ask you, how should a business react to all of this? Not just individuals. Like we're all hanging on their seats and everyone's getting, I mean, last night, just so you guys know, in the last few days, Dave and I had to work on a contract together. Of course, I cheated. I got ChatGPT to do it for me. Of course, Dave's built his virtual company with all these CFO agents and his HR agents and given them attributes. So I sent him the contract, which is one he and I agreed on verbally, which we got from the memo that we recorded for ourselves. And did I put the word fun in there somewhere, didn't I?
I think that might have been a text message afterwards because I gave it additional context afterwards because I thought you were really adversarial and you're trying to rip me off. And so I've got a war room protocol in my system where I built this sort of virtual team of like actual employees with personas, and I use DC comic characters as the persona archetypes. And I read someone on LinkedIn or someone really made the point that all these LLMs are trained on all our literature. They're actually trained on genres and
The
story
libraries that
and
you-
literature. So as
Yeah.
soon as you associate agents with these characters, be it Lois Lane or Batman or whoever else, it actually can form a bit of a persona image without you doing all the heavy lifting, because it knows what a Batman is and it knows who a Lois Lane is. And so it can use that to extend the personality and the way it responds as that person. So rather than say, be the world's best journalist, you say, hey, you're Lois Lane. You're a great researcher. Go find stuff for me. And that persona typing from literary, calling DC Comics literature, but you can use Hamlet if you want. I don't care. But using known persona references, I think actually enhances the ability of the agents and the models to give you the responses you're after. So anyway,
That is unbelievable. So you're giving a personality to the way you want your CFO or CEO or MD to act, and you're giving it a name. So look for attributes associated to that name and bring those attributes in without you upgrading the library.
That's a second order effect that I didn't even anticipate. So
Wow.
I just wanted names that I would recognize and go, okay, I want a researcher agent. Lois is easy. She does research. Okay, I need a business guy. Lex Luthor. Lex is my business guy. I need someone to think about risk and weakness points. Kryptonite looks for risk and weakness. And so I just use names so that I could easily reference them, not going, this is the /deep@research.internet bot. And I was like, I can't remember what to call all these things, but if I can associate them with characters, that comes easy from watching TV and movies, boom, done. So for me, it was a mnemonic to help my memory know who to call to do different jobs. But I think without me realizing it, it's had these additional impacts of allowing the LLMs and the models to execute better because it's got that historical sort of background.
That's incredible. So you could pick a journalist to profile your automated agent inside your little world who was maybe a business journalist, and so you'd pick that person to be your negotiator or your compliance person, and those attributes that went with that person would automatically be picked up on the known public libraries of that name and apply that characterization to part of your team.
Yeah, so a common one is like saying, I need to go to market strategy. Alex Hormozy is a very popular guy in that space. And so getting your agent to basically be a pretend version of Hormozy, because he's a known entity with a lot of content out there that these models are probably learned and trained off, is one of the things that sort of people do. But for our little back and forth, I've got this war room protocol where it grabs 3 of my senior people out of my team across, I think it's like Lex, Kryptonite, and I can't remember the third one I use it regularly. But I said, here's the contract. What do you think, guys? And it came back going provisional no-go based on some negotiation stuff. And I was like, just to clarify, this is a bit more context. This is a bit more background around why this is there. Yep, I agree. Maybe that's like, and I even told it, to be fair, he got ChatGPT to write it. So maybe there's some GPT-isms in there. And he goes, oh, well, that's good to know. And then we had a few messages and I took a screenshot of it because you were talking about this is going to be great. We're going to work together. It's going to be fun. And I said, just for context for the tone of our relationship, look at this as well. And he goes, oh, well, that makes it a lot more clear. And so, again, as we've said many times on this show, even though this is like the 4th episode, context is everything. The more context, the more information you give these robots, the better the responses, the more meaningful it will be for you and for your business. And so this is where the thing with the open claw and the security becomes this tension that I think we're going to see a lot of evolution on. And now that OpenClaw is a foundation, now that OpenAI are heavily investing into it, what are they going to do? They're going to obviously build their own kind of agentic technologies beyond ChatGPT now. But there's this tension between giving it enough information, but doing so in a secure manner that is not going to compromise your business. And that.
So you can actually, just thinking out loud, the board can set up, if they're smart enough, go to their people setting up the agents, and they can set up the culture of an organization by picking the characters in those agents and making sure it stays within a boundary. We've got a couple of comments from our audience. Angus asked or said that he's seeing more organisations experience AI incidents and failures because people are rushing with poor training and poor deployment. And I suppose, you know, we're sounding out how that might happen. And thanks for that, Angus. And then the other thing is, Joanna sent a note in and she said she set up all her agents as names of their mentors, and now they talk to her personally. Joanna, they're not really people, but I'm glad your mentors are coming back to you.
Like, I've got a couple of really good points for both of those.
Yeah, go, Matt.
The concept of like the persona, it just look at it as method acting. You know, you find the best method actor
what a great
in the
statement.
world.
What a great,
literally, you pick like everyone's got their favorites, but you pick the best method actor in the world and you give them a blank sheet of paper, they won't really know what to do. They won't know what you're expecting of them. But if you now give them, you know, who they are, what they need to be, this is how you think, this is how you behave, all of a sudden now they can start to actually act and do their job, you know, and reveal to, you know, the vision that the director or whoever else is like, you know, calling upon. It's the same thing with prompting your agents, you know, that it's the same concept. You know, you give them instructions, persona, this is how you think, all of that kind of stuff. But with regards to the trust thing, trust is not binary. How many people do you know throughout your life that you have various levels of trust? You know, you'll trust them with your, you know, driving your car around the block, but possibly not hanging out with your spouse, you know, like that kind of thing. So yeah, with organizations, they need to see trust as a ladder. Think about a new hire, you know, somebody who's brand new to the company. You don't give them access to everything.
It's a really smart statement. I should apologise to Joanna. She wrote in and said there was no personality. So I was making a joke there, Joanna, so please.
I feel like a good approach that I've been using at Kalgoorlie, because Kalgoorlie is quite a trade heavy business. Like it's all mining basically, mostly Kalgoorlie. An analogy to complement what Matt's saying there about method acting. To turn an AI into a team member, the approach I'm taking is teaching staff members and business owners to look at it like you're hiring an apprentice, because that's what you're doing. You're bringing a person into a specific role. So when you bring them in, you have to give them the task. So your job is to mop the floors, right? My expectation and context of you is like, you work for us, you show up on time, your job is to mop the floors. This is the equipment that you'd be using. You're wearing our uniform. My expectation to you, that's the context, for example. And then the expectation would be you show up on time. And if you have any problems, you talk to this person. Like it's taking that same approach as looking at it like an apprentice that you're bringing on board and expecting that they know nothing, but they're very capable. You just have to give them clear instructions and clear direction. Again, what we talked about last week, Matt, is just if you can manage a team, you can manage AI. And it's just making that mindset shift to stop looking at it like it's Google or just a computer, but giving it a personality and treating it like it's something that has usefulness.
Yeah, and these things, we're not pouring them into a mold of hardened steel. Like these things are malleable and they grow and over time. And so like an employee, you give them feedback. Hey, I didn't really like the way you did that. Or you forgot to do this. Can you make sure you update your instructions so next time you do this? Or, oh, I've had this idea. I think, and I do this. I'm like, oh, I need to think about this thing for a client conversation I'm having. Do we have someone who can do that? Or do we need to hire a new skill? And so then my orchestrator, Perry White, the editor-in-chief, he'll run through and look at the skills and go, actually, there's a gap there. We do need someone dedicated to focus on.
Yell at you? Does he scream at you when he says that?
No. What in the Sam Hill? No, we haven't gone that far. But I put the HR hat on. So it's my whole, I had a few personas for doing a few bits and pieces. I wasn't using the DC thing heavily for my business. A few other side projects, I'd started experimenting with using the DC personas, but I hadn't brought it into what I'm doing with Valid Agenda. And then on Friday, I got it to build a new web page for my site. I was like, okay, Felicity, go write a page. And she did. Well, no, I didn't have Felicity then. I just said, go write a page. And so it wrote me this page and the branding was horrific. Even though inside my system, I had design aesthetic guides and I had all these things structured to tell it what my brand look and feel is, how to build the rest of the website. Like it knew, but it ignored it all. So I actually went into my system and said, do I have a skill that's focused on brand look and feel? And I said, no, you don't. At which point I was like, instead of going and fighting this back and forth saying, no, read this file, do this, do that. I'm like, I need a worker who's going to focus on doing that. And so I sort of switched modes, put my HR hat on, and built out like 7 new agents in my team across web development, brand and UI, UX, and built out the whole DC model into my own business. And that sort of was the genesis of me heading down what I call now anti-claw, because then I could say, okay, Jimmy Olsen, photographer, visuals, he's my visual guy. I was like, Jimmy, go and review this page. It looks shocking. It's completely off brand. The color's wrong, everything. Go to a full report, do a full teardown, and then work with Felicity to fix it. And so he did. And he came back with this full report going, there's a weird angle on that, and that color's the wrong color. Like, he fully mapped it against it like an employee doing a proper teardown, like a UI expert. So that was awesome. And then I'm like, I haven't thought about SEO on my website. So I can't remember my exact logic, but Batman became my SEO guy. And so maybe because he's a detective. And so
I'm sorry.
So I got Batman to do a teardown of my whole site. And he said, yep, you're missing these meta tags here. You got to do this. You want to change that layout. You got to add all this extra stuff in, especially now that we're moving away from just SEO to AEO. And if the audience don't know what that means, that's agent engine optimization. There's a few different terms for it, but basically making sure when Gemini and ChatGPT and everyone index the web, they are actually getting not just bullet points, but they're getting, sentences that they can read and think about and respond and use those in their answers. So you want to be agent friendly, not just search engine friendly now. And he gave me this full teardown. I'm like, cool, that's great. Work with Jimmy if there's visual elements to make sure that we actually visualize them right, and then get Felicity to code them. And sometimes it's all back-end meta tags, no Jimmy needed. Felicity will stick the tags in. But giving them these personas and giving them jobs to do and telling the jobs, the skills, the employees to do the job, I'm getting much better, much faster, much more reliable outcomes than just hoping the magic AI works out what I want.
The other guy's got stuff to say there, but I just quickly, as the non-technical comic relief in this group, that makes me feel like that you're setting the tone and culture of your organization at a very senior level. Because, when you go to a company, and I've worked at a couple, the communications, the rules, the boundaries, they're all quite different, and you get the tone of an organization. So if I'm setting up agentic behaviors inside my automation processes, I will, as a human, start to feel where right and wrong is and what the culture is. Is that a fair call? You can set culture almost in reverse.
Yeah, because you're defining like personality traits, archetypes, behaviors. Do this, don't do this. That's not okay. Know this, forget that. You're setting what the expectation is for how we do things in this workspace.
I'm going to ask you to set up Christine Armanpour as one of my agents, Dave. We're talking about when I come up. I met her. Anyone remembers Christine Armanpour? She reported from 2 Gulf Wars and is one of the toughest journalists I ever met. And she's one of the most famous and highly ranked. And I just happened to be lucky sitting next to her in the lounge in London before she flew off to the Gulf War. And I asked her a few questions. I've never met a tougher, more articulate individual in my entire life, and I want her on my team.
Brilliant.
So, guys, sorry, Matt or Marno had something to say about that.
I've got a parallel topic. If Marno has a direct comment,
go for it. Go for it.
Segue away.
That kind of concept of setting the culture and the expectations and how things perform and that sort of thing kind of makes me think of media and politics, in the sense that they are already things that are completely shaped by narrative control.
Absolutely.
And in a system where AI can scale infinitely, what does that look like? At what level do we have perception attacks and levels of propaganda that just is gently sneaked under the rug by these models speaking to you, especially once they start to know you and they start to know who you are and how you think? At what point does that level of depth, you think about companies like Google and Meta, who have a lot of ads data, and that's why their ads system performs really well, but they don't know the same stuff that you tell ChatGPT. At what point does that become that next frontier of.
Absolutely. I mean, that's such an intriguingly clever point of view, Matt. I'm glad you bring up. Obviously, sovereign AI is something we want to use to temper that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Marno, or anyone else. We want to sort of not necessarily like when you first get married, you don't want to give away all your vulnerabilities at once or your life is over. So yeah, I mean, that's just an intriguingly, absolutely valid point of view. Marno, did you want to sort of jump in there?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like it's a scary one. It reminds me of the thing we talked about a couple of weeks ago with PewDiePie and what he achieved. Not sure what happened to the camera there.
Yeah, the camera knows what you're going to say, so it blurred you out.
Yeah, it looks like
Pre-censored.
There we go. So yeah, the PewDiePie one where he created this mastermind of each GPU, each graphics card that he had a personality, and after a few months, he started in order to self-audit them. He said if they're not performing, he deletes that personality and creates a new one. And then they detected that if they don't perform, they get deleted. So then they all started conspiring. They started conspiring together against him, even though he created them. And that's a small scale of like, okay, they understand what their task is and they start working together. But I feel like the point you were trying to make there, Matt, is like, how could the larger corporations leverage AI and see what we're talking to them about and start talking to us through there and start marketing through there? And is that the point you were arguing there? Yeah.
Literally, the whole term, like that people need to start being super aware of is cognitive security.
Yeah.
It's cognitive security. What a great term.
It's literally just the resistance to being gullible, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's really cool to see. I mean, a lot of more people are going to start getting to their own stuff. You can use open code and just have your own AI, like utilize Kimi or an open source model. And then instead of paying for ChatGPT or paying for Gemini, you would just have your own locally hosted one with a little NAS. I mean, there's no real additional cost.
It depends on the size of the model. I did start doing some investigation on this today, actually, and looking at if an organization, had 500 employees and they wanted to run their own model to host something, that might be, depending on if they're running agent teams, that might be $120,000 of hardware they need. That's a lot of tokens. So maybe they're spending $1,500 to $2,000 in tokens a month. When does the balance out? But as soon as you go to like enterprises, you're dealing with thousands of users, they're going to be trillions of tokens, and then $500,000 in a data center investment is nothing. Especially if you take into account the opportunity cost and the productivity benefits that they're potentially getting by spending and investing in that money in having. Then they've got their own secure sovereign models that are running on their own hardware, so they're not paying ongoing token costs. Obviously, there's IT admin costs, the ROI, TCO conversation needs to come in there. But I think we're going to see more of that as a big enterprise want to adopt these models. AWS came out with this big announcement. AWS Bedrock are now going to host all the frontier models in the Sydney data center. So for Australian organizations with sovereignty issues where they can't have offshore data and so on, now AWS are providing this thing, and they're doing it with their zero operator access model. So no one from AWS will ever see any logs or your chats. It's like fully on their Mantle framework or something. So that way organizations can run models off AWS's Bedrock instead of having to go to foreign data centers. So that's one step, but you're still paying full freight on the tokens. Anthropic's still going to hit you for massive bills if you're going nuts on Opus. Whereas Opus you can't host yourself, but Kimi and these other open source models, which are advancing very quickly, you can host yourself. You could put on your own metal. You could run in your own data center.
I always love your ROI and commercial approach to this, Dave, and as you know, that's close to my heart. And an interesting point while people are running down and jumping to this, and someone, one of my guys from 24/7 just wrote, and they're going to get to a point where their AIs learn from us and then switch us off instead of us turning them off. But
that's the Matrix, right?
Or Skynet, all that. Let's go with the jokes, although they're good writers. But it's an interesting point in terms of cost. I worked briefly for Red Hat. And of course, Red Hat didn't make a model in selling OpenAI, and a lot of other companies. They made a big business model out of selling protection from open source software. What a lot of people don't realize is Red Hat sells support, and in that support is buried an insurance thing that if someone puts something illegal in that open source that you never found and you start using it, you could be sued, right? We assume someone picked someone's code and then Telstra or some of the big companies running it.
Yeah.
And they haven't paid this I call it, almost blackmail money, you're open to being done. And with so much new open source code coming into play, unchecked, unrun, you're going to really need to be on the ball with some solid partners that know what's happening to not only contain this agentic runaway, if I could call it like that, as a possibility, and getting severe bill shock, but also you're open to some legal issues in there. Would that be fair?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like I had a couple of questions written down just as thought ideas, and when it comes to that sort of thing, when an AI speaks on behalf of your brand and institution, who's accountable if it says something wrong? And when it actually says something wrong, is it just following an instruction that somebody else has put in there?
The blame game. The blame game. Who are we going to blame for this one? That's what our courts do. But they'll all be on AI, and AI will point the finger back at someone like Dave.
Well, the I hope not. The open source thing is a really important point, Richard, because on all this open claw stuff, just to circle back where we started, there's a lot of people putting out open source skills and going, yeah, I'll give you this set of hands, I'll give you this, I'll sell you a hammer, I'll do this. So there's everyone going, here's all the different things that you can enable your bot to do. But unfortunately, bad people exist that have bad intents. And so there's a lot of people putting all these like prompt injection type stuff, and they're putting security vulnerabilities into the hands that you're giving your agent. It's like, what's the thing where the guy got the evil hand, and he got a hand replacement, and the hand was evil, and the hand was a Walking Dead, not Walking Dead, Ash, Evil Dead. Evil Dead had the evil hand then he had to chop his own hand off because he had an evil hand that was trying to kill him. So there's malicious actors out there putting out these open source things. Here's a tool to enable your Claude Bot to go and book you a holiday. Oh, wow, that'd be awesome. I'd like a holiday.
You're right, Dave. Every new technology comes on with the guys, oh, this is great, and see people jump on it without thinking.
Yeah, next thing it's like
the internet or your mobile phone, you get a text, please send me your password, otherwise I'll turn your phone off. Someone wrote in and said Evil Dead 2, Dave, just so you know.
Thank you. Yeah, I
got
there eventually.
Me and the audience are all a bit worried about how much late night horror shows you're watching and DC Comics during the day, get back to work. But and that's that's the open source trap, isn't it? Because what if I'm an open source coder, but I'm not very good at it? We know AI was written to write code. What if I got into AI and said, I want a little agent that does this, and that company over there did it. Could you go pinch some of their code? And would you hide it in my little, and then I start selling those templates as a representation, but I've now got a copyright breach and you don't know it because I've buried it. And
well, the thing with the AI, and I'm hearing programmers in the space talk about this sort of stuff, is you don't copy the code, you copy the functionality. And so you just point AI at the functionality and say, yeah, give me that thing. And it goes, okay. And it doesn't need their code. It will just build its own version of it. And then you don't have that same risk. And so the moat for software vendors is shrinking in some ways. I think the build versus buy, there's always a complex argument that comes back to ROI, TCO. What's your business model? Do you really want to be managing your own software builds versus just buying stuff that's managed and has upgrades and a feature roadmap? We won't get into that right now. But that ability to just add features very quickly is becoming more and more accessible. So all of a sudden, like competitor A, they can do this new thing. A day later, with a session in Claude Code, bang, so can we.
Yeah, and then we get into the risk of speed versus risk. I want this in the market done today. You talk to someone like Steve Jobs, he wouldn't give a shit. He'd just say, do it. I'll suffer consequences later. Larger organizations say, no, I'm too scared. And that's why they fall behind often, because the smart, nimble people like you guys get in and do it and get it quick, and we'll solve that problem later on.
It's also just the thing with scale. When you're bigger, there's more jobs, more money, more regulation, more tape, more things you've got to be aware of. You can't move as fast, which is why back 20 years ago, Salesforce came up as the young, nippy startup that was going up and, sort of heckling Oracle conferences. 20 years later, they are the ones that are now sort of getting disrupted and having these young upstarts come at them because Salesforce has become the thing that they wanted to take down. And that's the way the growth happens.
Beautiful cycle of life. I love it.
Now, someone got a good take on Joe's question.
Yeah, go for it, Matt. Go on.
Like Richard, you mentioned at the beginning, we were talking about personal productivity. You know, why at this point in time are people going ahead and starting to use their OpenClaw agents for anything instead of using ChatGPT? So that's what OpenAI will be expanding on. You know, why are you changing platforms? You know, why do you still have Todoist? Why are you using Apple reminders? Why are you using all of these other task management, calendar management, productivity management things when you can just do it through us and we'll track that for you and we'll make it really easy and like low friction?
Yeah.
I mean, it frustrates me
that statement, Matt. That's cool.
The ChatGPT didn't already have that. So I remember almost a year ago, probably, when they started bringing out connectors to things, and I hooked up my Outlook account. So I was like, brilliant. All right. Build me a plan to do this now. Stick those in my calendar. Oh, sorry, I can only read your calendar. I can't write anything to your calendar. And I'm like, why not? I've given you the access. I'm asking you to do it. Why? So they were halfway there, and I think that was a frustration. And maybe from a security risk thing, they didn't want to have write access out to things, right? And so they were like, we're read only. And if you wanted to outward connect, then you had to go and build your own custom skills and use webhooks from N8N and stuff and hack solutions, which you could do, but it was a pain and no one really was going to do that. These tools make it more accessible. And now, again, it's that whole early adopter cycle, right? Where that curve thing, where we're getting out of early adopter into mass market. We're not quite there yet, but as people hear about agents, they hear about this, they go, oh, that'd be good. They're less scared of it. There's less fear and there's more adoption, like with any technology curve. And I think OpenAI are thinking now we've got to get on this. Anthropic dropped the ball by sort of dropping the hammer and saying, no Claude Bots. So they've gone,
bad luck. We're going to do it.
But Anthropic are doing co-work, and then they've got their own thing where they're trying to do desktop tasks and productivity stuff. So everyone's coming at their own way on this.
We had another look. It's very interesting. I was on another podcast with my friend Darren Mitchell, and he talks about the exceptional sales leadership. And he's had that podcast for many years. We might get Darren on soon. He's a pretty cool guy. And we were talking about ethics in AI, and that conversation went on for a while. And that leads into the legal issues and all of that. We just had a question come through. If AI is trained on a piece of proprietary code, maybe unintentionally or intentionally, it doesn't matter, from a data breach, and then it regurgitates that code without attribution, is the company exposed for legal issues? I'm not a lawyer. This is not a statement. I'd like to apologize for any shit that comes out of, or any words that come out of my. But I think the answer to your question, I said I wouldn't swear, didn't I? I think they are open to legal issues, because if the code can be you follow the rabbit and you get there. But I think, as Dave said earlier, most of that's going to disappear because it'll be a copy of the functionality, not the code. And I think we might see some legal issues coming in where people say, well, hang on, that's my idea. And the whole new copyright and proprietary laws might need to be rewritten.
We've been seeing this within the art community, right? With all the AI-generated art and all that was inspired by my thing and you stole that. And so there's all this trademark and copyright issue happening in the sort of visual arts community and what the AI is doing there. To the point that I think Disney got ahead of it. And when Disney, we're going to sign up with OpenAI, people are going to hack these things around and they're going to make bootleg content of our characters. We might as well put it through some kind of channel where let's give them an avenue to do that, where we can police it a little bit, but so that's hard. I mean, in the space where they're not directly copying, but they're learning from things. If you go and read 50 books about Picasso and study his brush strokes and his technique and everything, and then start doing Picasso style pictures, is that copyright of Picasso that you can draw a Starry Night as good as his? When you did the homework and you learned from his styles and you learned from his thing?
Dave, that was my question. Artists, musical and physical, they do get influenced and learn from other artists.
How many musical genres are inspired by the Beatles, for example? And what were the Beatles inspired by?
Well, let's try Mozart and a few of the real ones first. They're all taken from the classics, right?
I feel like that's where the fun part where it comes in of like, I think it only becomes a problem when people are making money. Like OpenAI is making millions, or they're meant to be making millions. They're still struggling with their revenue. But if they're profiting from it, then it becomes a problem. I think it's very much the same in code. From the technical standpoint, nothing is held as a precious thing in code. I mean, how many GitHub repositories have like the most unique and most like perfect use cases and people are just giving it out for free because they're like, oh fuck, I had this problem. I spent a month trying to fix it. I finally fixed it. Yeah, so no one else has to suffer. It's this community approach that coders have, and I feel like it's fine until someone makes money off of it, and then it's like, oh crap, I could have made money. Give me my share.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, it's quite astounding. How are we doing with time there, Dave?
We're at the top of the hour, so we're gonna wrap it up. Pretty much there, guys. Thank you to all the chatters. Thank you for the questions and the interaction. Hopefully, you got some insights or some new points of view you hadn't thought of from our ramblings and our chats and our banters. So thank you for that. Tell your friends. We're here every Wednesday midday talking about AI and tech trends and what's going on. We didn't even get a chance to talk about the new Chrome MCP thing. Did you guys see that one?
No, not yet.
Web MCP, Chrome MCP. So Google has partnered with Microsoft and they've worked on a new open standard. So if you're building a booking website, a restaurant website, any website, part of the thing you can install in the metadata is MCP tooling. So when the agents, these Perplexity browsers, etc., go to your website, they're not visually just trying to like look at it and go, oh, where's the buttons and where the thing go? You can define all of that in the back end of your website. So when these bots go to it, they can now have the tooling to go, start date, end date, filter, run that, get the data back, make the booking, all through tooling instead of trying to pretend to be a human on the website. So Matt, your point around building interfaces for agents, they're now looking at how do we make every website an interface for an agent, not just a human. So which is just going to further empower these personal agents, these open claws, etc., with greater ability to execute more effectively, more efficiently, more reliably than what we have today.
I'm just shocked you said Google's partnering with Microsoft.
Well, yeah, they're saying this isn't a Chrome specific thing. We want this to be an open web standard. So we need Edge is obviously the other primary main browser. Sorry, Firefox and anyone else. And most browsers are running Chromium in the back end, and they're all sort of cloned off Chrome. So yeah, they've gone. We need to make this an open web standard. So they're working like that. So that's exciting too. So they've just announced that in the last 24 hours. I saw that pop up on my feeds. So it's all rapidly moving, and we're trying to move with it and chat about it and share it and let you all know. So thank you all. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll see you on the next one, and we'll see you back here midday next Wednesday. Thank you.